Hey, Discern listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch.
Jenny को तो कभी नहीं करेंगे.
This is exactly the reason why I didn't want them to come over here and for him to tell them, because I knew that his mom was going to get hurt and he was going to go after her. I'm left sitting by myself, not knowing what's happening. What about me? I need to be comforted too.
Yeah, but I don't, now maybe because of the language barrier, she doesn't really understand what happened, but if I were there, I'd be like, totally, you've been absolutely harmed through all of this, 10 years really, by not only the mom, but also Sumit, by giving into all this. So yeah, you deserve to feel all the feelings you're having. But Sumit right now is going through a massive problem. He is being completely rejected by his entire family and community, and that is a deep wound and trauma for him right now. So to expect him to drop all that and tend to you is, I think, unfair.
It does scare me that Sumit is choosing his mom over me again.
Well, we don't know that's what's happening. I hope that's not what's happening, or at least I hope for Jenny's sake that's not what's happening. This is very differentiated of him, very mature, very giving, very compassionate, very loving. If I were there before he did this, I would offer this up as an option of, well, if you have it in you, maybe just go over there and hug her and say you love her. Kill him with kindness, as they say. It's probably not going to work, but it might start something. It might begin a ball rolling down a hill, if you will. It might cascade into other kinds of flexibility in the mom or acceptance of the situation. If she can see that, wow, even though I'm doing all this to him, he still is loving to me and caring about me. That's ultimately what I want. That was another hypothesis that I was throwing out there. It's not a very strong one, that for her, the mom, she might really need her sons, maybe particularly Sumit, who knows, and is desperate for that closeness and doesn't want him to really marry anyone. But particularly if he marries Jenny, it means that to her, in her mind, that he is emotionally and maybe even practically distancing himself from her. And that is so painful that she actually, that's where the pain generates from. She distorts it and it comes out in this other way. But maybe for him to express, look, I'm going to be with Jenny, I'm married to her, but you and I can be just as close. These things are not mutually exclusive. Because we can imagine in her mind, and this is really speculative, that if she thought, well, if you were like my other son and married a proper woman from our culture who understands how the ranking of things, then I will know how to predict the future, which is that I outrank my son's wives. I don't know if that's the case, but it kind of looks that way to me a lot of the time. And thus she would feel like, well, if push comes to shove and I want to see my sons, I'll be able to do that because the wives don't have any power over what I want. And if you have an American wife who doesn't really know that or comes from a different mindset about that, then I worry that I won't be able to have that kind of power anymore, which will lead to me not being able to be close to my children, which is very important to me. So that's another hypothesis. So maybe if he shows her this, but I just feel bad for Sumit.
मुझे ऐसा लगता है मेरा बेटा खो गया.
So we hear her say that, which she basically said many times, even to his face, and the dad does not repeat that, does not seemingly agree. Maybe he does, and he just doesn't feel like he needs to say it, but so there's a lot of questions about the dad in terms of if he were left to his own devices, what would he be doing? I will say that if I were to not know 90 Day Fiancé or Rewind the Clock, and before I knew the show existed and someone described it to me, I would think that this would be the sort of story that would be on the show. This is a very, brand central storyline where you have two people from very different cultures, and because of the cultural differences, you have problems. I can see why they're focusing on it and why they've had it through so many different seasons. And, it's an interesting look at what life is like for some people along these lines.
Want to say something?
Can you just leave it?
No, actually, we
You
should
need
talk.
to leave it. Really? Seriously,
Really?
leave it. Yeah.
Okay. They edited something out there, I think, but he's saying, do you want to talk about it? And she's like, she wants to leave it. I think she's angry and hurt that he followed her outside. Is that what at least that's what she was saying earlier. Or she wonders if she's being thrown under the bus because she has no idea what happened in that conversation. We do because we saw the translation, but maybe she distorted the situation in a way where she has a story in her mind that didn't actually happen. Because from what we saw, he held the line and said, I'm going to be with Jenny. And in the face of the mom saying, you are done, you are dead to me, I'm never going to see you again for the rest of your life. At no point did he say, I'm going to divorce Jenny, or I'm so sorry for getting married. He never said anything like that, but maybe she thinks he did or something.
This is really
Okay.
bad.
Okay, this is bad. So what the you want to do? It's good. It's bad. Good.
What's happening? I have to assume, because Jenny is reasonable usually, so I think she has some narrative in her mind that isn't true. That's just a guess. And or she's just been so beaten down for so many years that it's just hard to cope with. Because I think the conversation went on a lot longer than what we saw. So you just imagine like a few hours of her sitting there and hearing all these things. It would take a toll. Doesn't justify attacking him, and especially doesn't justify her getting aggressive. I mean, that's standing up and yelling, and she's prone to this. She's exhibited this behavior before, where if I didn't know better, I would think she was on the verge of physically striking him, which did she done in the past? I don't know, but it's that aggressive, getting in someone's face, provoking someone, trying to intimidate them. Not okay.
This is really
Okay.
bad.
Okay, this is bad. So what you want to do? It's good. It's bad. Good.
Why are you yelling at me?
I said, I know you're going to go with your parents and I'm going to be left by myself.
Right. I think she's misnarrativizing the situation, that she, for some reason, thinks that he has rejected her, that because the parents pressured him, he's like throwing Jenny under the bus, throwing her away. I didn't see that. Maybe they cut something out, but hopefully he can say, no, that's not what's happening here. Let me tell you what happened. I just followed mom out. I was just hoping maybe if I hugged her, she would come back around, but I'm with you. If my mom is going to be that way, if my family's going to be that way, it sucks, and I'm going to continue to try to work on it, but I'm never going to leave you. I think Jenny might be worried about that.
You guys talk Hindi and nobody, you don't tell me what's being said. You think I
What?
don't need to be comforted? You think
Did you say anything?
You think I'm okay? You think everything is okay with me? Why does everybody think it's okay for me to sit here and take all this abuse?
Was that a rooster that was having a conversation, or maybe telling the neighbor to be quiet? Or anyway.
Why does everybody think it's okay for me to sit here and take all this abuse?
Yeah, it's just interesting how she's going. It's like, you didn't think I want to be comforted? Did something get edited out? I don't understand where she's coming from. So if it is edited at least accurately to what happened as a representation of what happened, because we understand that conversation with the parents, that was probably hours. It was, or at least several tens of minutes, and they only showed us like 4.5 of those minutes. So was something left out? But if it is a representation of what really happened, my only guess is that she is misnarrativizing it, or the stress that she has been under for 10 years now is just exploding in an irrational anger and attack on him. Because she's like, what about me? What about me? And you're just like, it's actually, I think this is one of those moments when you should be comforting him, because he is being disowned by his family because of his love for you. This is a really hard day for him.
I'm not saying
Didn't I
anything, and
told
I'm
you?
not supposed to feel anything. I'm not supposed to care.
You
Only
are
concerned about your
overreacting. You are
parents.
overreacting.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine worse reactions from Sumit, so I'll give him that. But you know, there are better ones as well. Like he could be like, "Look, I totally get it. It's stressful. I'm sorry I didn't comfort you." And then, can we move past this and get to the bigger topic here, which is that I just got disowned?
Sumit telling his parents that we got married turned out exactly as I knew it would, a disaster. I knew that, you know, his parents were going to react the way they did, and he was going to take after them, and I was going to be sitting here all by myself. He needs to think about how I'm feeling, because, I mean, I am his wife now.
Yeah, I think she's misnarrativizing it, or she's really trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. She's determined to see herself as being wronged here or something. I don't know. Or by having the threat, because that's in the air of there's like, okay, well, I know how much Sumit cares about his family and how he doesn't want to be disowned. Does this mean this is the beginning of the end and Sumit will leave me now because of the pressure from the family, and I'm really insecure? You know, is that where it's coming from?
And so his loyalty should be with me.
I need to pamper you, na, every time whenever you get mad.
Go away.
Eh?
Go away.
Do I need to pamper?
What do?
What?
Away from me.
Yeah, one, if someone says go away, then go away. What are you expecting to happen, Sumit? That you're going to force yourself into the room and she's going to be like, okay, you win. I mean, obviously she's agitated. She needs a good amount of time to come down from that. And then Jenny escalates it with some, like, what does she want to do? Does she want to get into a fist fight with him or something? What's happening?
Get mad?
Go away.
Eh?
Go away.
Do I need to pamper?
What do?
What?
Away from me. Get away from me.
Get away
Forever.
from me.
Forever. Understand? You think I'm
What
not
do I
hurting?
think?
Do you think I'm not hurting?
What?
Do you?
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. It just seems so unnecessary. I don't understand. This is perhaps the angriest we've ever seen her at a circumstance that doesn't seem to justify it. There were so many other circumstances where it seemed this anger would have been much more in sync with the situation. So I'm just totally confused as to what's happening with her.
Why don't you care about me a little bit too?
Who said that I don't care
How
about
about
Jenny?
I'm upset too?
Listen. You were here to support me.
And I did. I sat out there.
Yeah, don't have problem with you, but at least don't behave like that.
So I'm not supposed to have any emotions or at all.
You have emotions, but you are taking that frustration out on me.
Okay, so I think they're starting to relate and calm down, care about each other. He affectionately went in to her and she accepted that. So maybe this is the beginning of making up for the two of them. So that's a good sign, I guess. I will say that it's interesting that, and I've noticed this before, that there's a parallel between at least the way that Sumit treats her, but now it's almost looking like that, where you have Sumit involved with either his wife or his mom, who is exploding and making everything about them, and then he's pleading from a place of like, oh my God, while knowing that they're being irrational.
That she gonna be there for me because I just sacrificed my family for the woman I love. And she's screaming at me. That is not acceptable.
Listen, this is the thing, okay? You're sitting here and you're talking with your parents. I can't understand anything that's being
Is that
said.
all I was
Can I
trying?
talk?
Okay, so good. They're finally, I think, starting to actually relate. She's saying, I'm sitting here, I don't understand what's... So maybe that what was happening, and I missed something there, that he agreed that he would translate so that she would know what was happening, and she was getting more and more angry and hurt because he's not translating. But I think we understand why that wasn't happening, because there was so much tension and so much pain going on that I think it would have been a good thing for him not to break from that and go, oh, by the way, right now my mom is saying that she's disowning me. I don't know. So I get that, but maybe he had firmly promised that he would do that, and that was hurtful to her, which, okay, so she's explaining this is what it was like for me. And he's like, okay, that's my fault. Okay. And then she's like, let me talk. It's like, but if he's saying it's his fault, that's a good thing he's saying that.
So I'm sitting here and I'm just like, all I can do is just imagine and think what they're saying. I have no idea. But I'm sitting here like, be quiet. If I say anything, I'm going to just make the whole situation worse. It's hurting me too. This whole thing is hurting me too.
Yeah, she should have led with this because that's totally reasonable, and I think that Sumit could empathize and understand this and validate this. But the way she started with it, one of the worst experiences humans go through is sitting in silence or sitting and waiting while the pain is compounding. So a common example of this is you are on the preoccupied attachment scale and your partner said that they're going to meet up with their ex-girlfriend or something. And your partner reassures you and you're like, okay, but you're going to be home at 6 o'clock, right? And I'll be home well before 6 o'clock. You're sitting at home and you're struggling, but you're holding it together. You're like, well, my partner is with their ex, and so I'm okay. I'm gonna convince. But then 6:01 happens, and that's when the pain starts. That's when the worry starts. Should I text? What should I do? Are they cheating on me? And then 6:02, and then 6:03, and every second that ticks by, it just exponentially gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then the partner walks in at 6:07 and it's just like, blam, 7 minutes of exponential growth and hurt and anger. And I think that is what she was experiencing, that she was experiencing totally validatable, understandable hurt because the family is rejecting her, and Jenny feels horrible that Sumit is going through this because of her. She feels bad for everyone, and she feels rejected and tricked and demoralized, dehumanized. I mean, just imagine that. And that's another element to it. I mean, because not only is the mom dehumanizing her directly, but the family's dehumanizing her because they're not even looking at her. They're just talking about her and saying, this is ridiculous. And the way it looked like the whole family was against her. But hearing the words, it sounded like the family was only against her because the mom is so reactive, but it's hard to know what's happening there. Anyway, I mean, certainly we saw the dad and the brother and the sister-in-law actively against her Jenny before, but so maybe they've retained that. But anyway, point is that she's sitting there and all the pain is building, and she's like, he agreed he was going to include me, and he told me to shut up and told me not to say anything. I want to say something, and this doesn't feel good, and totally makes sense. But to get aggressive towards him and accuse him and make it all about you, so I think now, but relationships get messy sometimes. People have explosions. We all make mistakes. As long as you get back to functionality and health, then maybe all's well that ends well. So let's see how they manage her.
Why do you think it's easy for me to sit here and take all of this, watch all of this, take all of this? Why do you think it's easy for me?
You had an option not to come.
I came for you.
When I need you to just support, you just start yelling. You didn't come to me. You didn't take care of me. You don't care what I feel.
Yeah, okay. So he's saying, I do care, and hopefully they can manage this. I'm worried that Jenny's on the edge and she'll get pushed over the edge again. So hopefully they can hold it together.
I know Sumit loves me, and we've spent our entire relationship trying to convince his parents to let us be together. But I thought this was all over with once we finally got married. I thought that I would be more of a priority to him, but it seems that I'm not, and I'm starting to wonder, is that ever going to change?
All right. I would have advised her against that hope, but it makes sense that she would think that, particularly from an American standpoint. of like, well, we're married now, so good riddance, parents. But that's not the way most people are around the world, anecdotally, in my experience. That for him, it's a major step to get married and a major commitment, and it means a lot, but it does not mean that he is going to give up on trying to bridge the gap between him and his mom and his family. So a bit of wishful thinking on her part, but she might be dealing with this kind of conflict for the rest of their lives together. And so she might need to accept that. And maybe that's what's happening here. She's just like, oh, I just thought I had this hope it'd be over, but it's not, I guess. And that's a big bummer. Yeah.
You were not that upset as
You don't know because I'm sitting here quiet. You don't know how I'm feeling inside.
I wish that Sumit would say, yeah, I get it, and I'm sorry. And I totally understand why you're that upset. I totally get that. Can I tell you what I'm going through right now? This is possibly one of the worst days of my life. The way my mom, I hoped that she wouldn't do this, but she basically disowned me forever. And in the past, there was theoretically a way out of that, because if I did break up with you, then I would be okay with my mom again. But I'm married to you now, and I'm never going to divorce you. So there's a chance that I'll never be able to talk to my mom again. And that's what I'm faced with now. That's what my family just put me through. This is a very hard day for me. So I understand that I'm not being very empathetic to you or very understanding of you, but if I had an excuse, it's I'm probably suffering at least as great as you are, if not 10 times more. Not to minimize what you're going through, but I'm in shock. You know, that's what I would hope you would say, because I think that's what's happening.
You know, this is hard on me too. Listen.
It's just hard. It's not just only hard on you. It's not just only hard on you. Don't cry.
Your parents just hate me. Your mom upset too. This isn't easy for me either.
It's not easy for you either, but try to understand what situation I was in, instead of coming and start yelling at me.
Okay, well, it's nice to see. And maybe this is one of those all's well that ends well. So, yeah. And it just breaks my heart, because it's like, oh, this is so unnecessary. It's just so, so unnecessary. All this suffering, for what? 10 years of suffering, for what? It's just, if I thought that this was an isolated thing that happens in the world, I would say, well, you know, weird things happen in the world, but I think this is happening for the majority of, if not everyone on the planet. So much unnecessary suffering, preventable suffering that if you just took a beat and thought, well, maybe this cultural idea is not helpful, big picture. What's the real way of looking at this? Why are we here on this planet? Am I here on this planet to uphold my community's weird standards of what's supposed to be, or is there some other reason why I'm on this planet? You know, there's just so many examples of this kind of suffering. These two have managed together, and they've endured so much. And the other thing I think I've been saying, or at least thinking, is you got to wonder if their relationship would have petered out if they didn't have so much working against them that kind of Romeo and Julieted them together.
Jenny and I are married now, and relationship partners supports each other. I give up a lot in the relationship, and I need to know that Jenny is also there for me, because I may not have anybody else in my life in future. Calm down.
But there he is, calm down. Just let her cry. It's not hurting anyone. And Sumit, I think you probably have some tears to cry about. I think you could cry with her. I think that would actually help you and help her to understand what you're going through. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.